Villainous Heroics by I Believe in Happily Ever After on AO3. Chapter 12. Snowball, I think I did something very stupid. There was a loud, echoing meow from the cat in his lap that nearly vibrated the air. Hasashi absentmindedly realized that Snowball was getting to be bigger than some small dogs. It was comforting, more than anything, to have that heavy weight pressing down on him and pinning him firmly to the moment. It's stupider than when I decided to become a villain. The cat settled back down in his lap for a long nap. Hisashi stared at where his fingers were buried, indented with white fur. The longer he stared, the more it felt like there was a delay between his fingers and the way they were scratching at the purring cat. I did something really, really stupid. It had been a joke, or perhaps more accurately, it had just been another part of the game. A silly little game of hero and villain. Aizawa had been more accurate than he realized. It had been easy, in the beginning, easy to plan along to the silent hero and loud villain. A way to garner attention by having a hero defeat him near the end night. That was how it was supposed to go. Present Mike was supposed to get louder and louder until the entire world could hear his screams. But instead, he just got quieter and quieter, words only loud enough for one person, for one hero. Hisashi had just ran along with it because it was fun, and it didn't harm anyone. President Mike flirted. Eraserhead rolled his eyes, and at the end of the night, it was just an exaggerated of admiration he felt when he realized how much of a hero Aizawa really was. So when did that change? When did the loud flirtatious turn into soft admiration that he couldn't even hide from himself? When had Eraserhead's short temper turned into an endless patience? And when had those prickly glares turned into hidden smiles that Hasashi worked so hard to earn? When had his plan of getting attention changed into only getting Aizawa's attention? I really screwed this one up, Snowball. Hisashi curled in on himself, as if making himself smaller would somehow make the pain feel less. I wasn't supposed to actually care about a hero. Countless months of being chased, long nights of running around like children without curfew, stolen moments where truth were given freely instead of forced out, endless seconds were softer than were traded with warm smiles, and a heartbeat worth of care traded between each moment, and each time eyes met. Yamada Hizashi knew well what this feeling was. He had never felt it as strong as he did now, but what else could it be? Whenever he was around him, Hisashi found his hand shaking slowly, showing all his nerves were being sealed away, his heart clamoring like the beats of worn lullabies, and words falling still and silent in the realization that they weren't needed. He had known the strings of his feelings when he was younger, and he didn't know the world as well. But now, a comfortable 31, he knew this was real. Hisashi was honestly in love with the man known as Aizawa. No one could warn him otherwise. Every waking thought seemed to be filled with that rough, quiet, and kind man that was always quick to save those who needed it. It was like Hisashi could think of nothing else these days. Oh, Snowball. Hisashi pulled his knees up and sucked in an unsteady breath, flinching when a hard, scratchy tongue licked at his cheek, worried meows tumbling through the air a moment later. I really screwed this all up, didn't I? After all, a villain in love with a hero. What a joke. Oi, oi! Take it easy here. I was just in the neighborhood and got a bit curious. President Mike raised his hands and looked away with a little click of his tongue. It's like you lot can't tell villains apart these days. The way I hear it, you're not much of a villain these days, President Mike. At the rough growl, Hisashi tried to figure out just how he had ended up in this situation he was trapped in now. More of a vigilante, I hear, is what you are, wannabe hero. Didn't your mother ever teach you not to call people slurs? Hisashi drawled, shoving his hands in his pocket and trying to look like he was unaffected by the guns that were being aimed at him. At least, the guns that weren't already being aimed at the group of civilians pressed against the wall. You know this is a shit bank, don't you? They don't even carry large amounts of cash. Why don't you shut your mouth, hero, before someone gets hurt? The ringleader of the group, or at least Hisashi assumed it was the ringleader, sounded one step away from crazy. How boring. It's nothing but a bank robbery. Hisashi pouted, moving around the room with casual boredom. The guns remained trained on him, and Hisashi did his absolute best not to show how scared he was. If it was between him and the terrified people who had just gotten off a late shift, though, at least he knew his way of fighting around. Oh well, I suppose the hero will show up eventually. Maybe we should leave it, man. One of them murmured, a man with a mutation quirk that looked like it could be a snake or some other kind of reptile. This guy managed to keep it with Eraserhead. It was pathetic how Hasashi felt himself perk up just hearing the hero's name. The way I've been hearing it, the two are working together, and President Mike is just some undercover cop or hero that's been gathering information on all of us. He's the reason the streets are so empty these days. Well, he had given a helping hand with his radio show and that trigger case, but that was about all. Oi, oi! Wasn't I just saying how there was no need to insult me? Hisashi kept his tone lax and uncaring, trying to play up like he wasn't scared of anything they could do to him. It was one thing to go up against a couple of gang members in an alleyway, but it was another to do it in a place where he couldn't use his quirk and there were guns aimed at him. Come on, we're all villains here. What do you even want? The one over by the tellers was shaking, fingers pressed against the trigger of the gun rather than the guard. If Hasashi wasn't scared before, he was now. Dealing with the bank robbers was bad enough, but it was another matter entirely when some of them looked like they've never used a gun in their life before. If you're after our money, hey, no worries. Hisashi raised his hands again as a gesture of peace, working his way to where a terrified bank teller had been pulling money into a duffel bag. If you heard of me, then you know I'm not interested in money, and I could give less of a shit about getting a share of it. 12 civilians, with one of them being a girl that couldn't be older than 7 or 8. There were 2 tellers, one tied up and the other shaking and looking between Hasashi and the man who had been talking. The windows were broken, so that was one thing that could work in their favor, and there it is. An emergency button under the teller's desk that would call the police to the bank's location in a heartbeat. As for why I'm actually here, well, Hisashi shrugged, going over to the teller and knocking him to the floor before kicking him to the chest, where he should be most protected. He couldn't kick him too lightly, but he did his best to be as gentle as possible, mouthing a "stay down," and the man's eyes caught his. I already said, didn't I? Turning back to face them, Hasashi let his finger brush against the button quick as a flash, pressing it down before giving the best villain smile. A hero will show up here, eventually. Might as well have some fun with them when they do. If it was one thing Hasashi could do, it was make himself seem harmless. He had years of practice in making himself seem like he couldn't hurt a fly, and he had just as much practice in playing a room when he needed to. Hey, come on, listeners. You're talking to President Mike. I'm the voice villain out to show these heroes just why they can't go around acting as high and mighty as they do. Good. All their attention was on them. I just want to show the world just why this system is as broken as it is. Yeah? No need to worry about me stepping on any of your toes, that's for sure. A tense few minutes passed as the ringleader kept a careful eye on him, instructing the others to gather up all the money and get ready to leave. It was a race against the clock now, and Hasashi knew that they were running out of time. And make sure to take few of these ones. They'll make good shields if nothing else. Aw, come on, man. That'll only piss him off more. Hisashi leaned against the wall and crossed his arms, trying to calm his racing heart as one of the thugs moved towards where the girl and someone who looked like her mother were crouched. The mother looked like she wasn't about to go down without a fight. Besides, if you get caught with just the money, it's less time than having a hostage with you. Why the fuck do you care? You're just here to fight some heroes, aren't you? Or is it true about what they're saying about you? Some undercover hero? Fuck. How long did it take the police to respond to a bank robbery? Trust me, I'm the furthest from a hero you can get. There were two enclosed. One shout from him could bring down the whole damn building if he wasn't careful. Yeah, well. The sounds of sirens drowned out the words, and Hizashi knew he made a mistake when he felt the relief flash across his face. Fucking knew it! Fucking get rid of him! Let's get out of here. Grab the kid too. You know, you're a walking cliche, don't you? Grab the kid. How much worse can you get? Think. His quirk was only good for screaming, but maybe he could just do something like whistle? Shit. There was no time to figure something out like how to use his quirk for good. Mommy? The shrieks of the little girl ran across the room, and Hizashi felt his feet move before he could even think to stop himself, body ramming into the thug who had picked her up. Loosening his grip, there was the sound of gun firing, and Hizashi felt the vibration and physical force of something slamming into his shoulder before he felt the pain of it. Stomping down on every urge he had to scream, Hizashi gave a good kick to the downed thug head to make sure he would stay down before pushing the girl back onto her mother's arms. Then he met eyes with the leader of this mess. Gun aimed at him and ready to fire again. Hizashi couldn't say he had ever been shot before, and he knew that as soon as the adrenaline ran out, he was in for a world of pain and trouble. Right now, though, there were people behind him who had done nothing wrong, and there was a little girl crying and sobbing. Hizashi knew the type of person he was, and for as much shit as he had gone through, he had never been able to stand the sound of children crying. As he had told Eraserhead, he was a villain, but he wasn't heartless. That's the best you got? This was nothing. After every damn thing in his life, this was nothing. I fight with pro heroes every night, and I've been through a lot worse than you think, and you're a gang of children. So, I'm just gonna ask you one more time. Is this the best you've got? He made sure to put just enough of his quirk into his voice to shake the room and have the others stumbling. He made sure not to waste the moment as he moved forward. It was one thing to fight thugs and gang members in a dark alley, where he was the only one with a chance of getting hurt. But it was utterly terrifying to fight in an old building against people with guns who weren't afraid to use them on innocents who didn't deserve fear like this. One of them was already down, though, and there were only 4 altogether. A well-placed punch and kick knocked down another one, and a tackle prevented a bullet from lodging into his spine from the third that was soon rendered as unconscious as the others. I'd say it was a pleasure, President Mike, but it really wasn't. Too far. He was too far away, and he was exposed. And had it all really led to this? Aizawa was going to be so disappointed. The shot rang out, and Hasashi froze, and the pain never came. Slowly, as if looking would somehow cause the bullet to resume its place and hit him, Hasashi looked and saw the gun was aimed at the ceiling with a familiar gray cloth wrapped around the arm that held it. Well, fancy seeing you, hero. Hizashi was pleased to see that Eraserhead was wearing the goggles, but the pleasure was very quickly vanished when he felt the glare that was turned on him. He was definitely in trouble. What were you even thinking? Trouble, Hasashi realized, had not even begun to describe the last hour of his life. You could have been killed. Aizawa had showed up right on time to deal with the last thug, but what happened after was a nightmare that made Hasashi almost feel sorry for pro heroes. It took an hour, Aizawa and every civilian and teller inside the bank to convince the police that Hasashi hadn't had any part in the robbery, and that he had ended up trying to save them all. The police only grew more pissed when they couldn't even take him in over quirk abuse, since Hasashi hadn't used his quirk in the fight. At least, not really. An hour of talking to the police, dealing with civilians, letting his shoulder be looked over and patched up, and trying to avoid Aizawa, though ended with Hasashi trapped against the back of an alley as the man had been avoiding tore into him. The only hindsight of the night was The little girl and her mother, who had thanked him and then called him their hero. Are you even listening to me? Do the words, "you could have died," mean nothing to you? You were shot, and... Eraser? Hisashi was shaking. He needed to get out of there before he let anything slip with a mixture of pain meds and adrenaline crash. I don't know what you think about me, but I couldn't just stand there when a little kid was crying. Which is why you should have left the building immediately and called the police. You could have left after you pressed the alert. Instead, you stayed and almost got yourself killed for it. Hey, by the time I realized how fucked up it was, I was already stuck there, okay? Leaving would have only been more suspicious. And I was trying not to let anyone get shot. Great job with that one, Aizawa snorted, nodding to where Hisashi's shoulder was still stinging. The pain was only getting worse, and Hisashi wasn't looking forward to when the pain meds wore off. From the testimonies, it sounded as if you basically ran in front of the bullet. It's not like I was trying to get shot. It was close enough to the truth, anyways. He had known that they wouldn't hurt the little girl when she was going to basically be a shield for them, but she had cried and he just... Then why? It was the same question over and over, but there was really only one answer, wasn't it? My body moved on its own before I could think. For the first time that night, Aizawa was quiet. Hisashi wasn't sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing, though. I don't know why, Eraser. She screamed, and I moved before I even thought about it. There was a long silence that Hisashi almost thought Aizawa had left before he heard a soft, quiet question that had him drawing in a blink. Mike, why are you a villain? Slowly raising his gaze, Hisashi stared at the man. Aizawa stared back, a complicated expression on his face that Hisashi couldn't even begin to describe. It was an anger, though it wasn't anger, and that was the part that was scaring him. The question had been asked so softly and so seriously, and Hisashi didn't have an answer. He used to know the answer to that question, back when he had started and been trying to change things, but now? Hisashi had wanted to get back at the heroes for how they'd never cared about villains that weren't big or flashy. That's why he had done this. That used to be why he had done this. Heroes never helped the kids that were lost in the shadows, and Hisashi wanted to prove that all heroes cared about were their fame, but then Eraserhead had happened. Then Aizawa had happened. Present Mike's hero ended up being an actual hero who did his best to help others in whatever way he could and didn't seem to care one bit for fame or the media. He was pretty sure Aizawa's hero persona could never be talked about again, and that would faze him more than anything. Hisashi had wanted to get some aggression out because this whole damn system was so broken. But then it had changed. First, it was just proving everything everyone had said about him. Then it was about having fun without the consequence. Then it was helping a bit here and there, it felt like. And then it was about seeing Aizawa as much as possible. And then, why was he a villain? It was such a stupidly simple question. And yet the answer felt like it didn't exist. Could he really be called a villain when he had taken a bullet for a little girl without even hesitating? I don't know. Was he really a villain? Oh my god, Vigilante arc? And by Vigilante arc, because technically speaking, he's been a Vigilante the whole time. Start of him finally accepting that in reality he's a Vigilante, and then him going into becoming an actual pro hero. Hee. Yes? No? Yes? No? Can they smooch? I'm sorry. Probably, speaking right, me as a writer, probably isn't the best option for them to smooch right now because they are having, Mike is having an existential crisis about the whole fact that he's not really a villain, and although he remembers why he started all this, he doesn't know why he's continuing it, right? So he's having an existential crisis. Obviously, Aizawa is having a whole, you almost died. I'm caring about you, and I'm showing that I care about you in a really weird way by screaming at you and being like, why didn't you just run away, kind of thing. Knowing full well that if Aizawa was in the same boat, he would have done the same. They both have no self-preservation when it comes to saving other people, kind of thing. Also, I love the whole his body moved before he could even think, kind of thing, because like and in My Hero Academia main, it says that almost all heroes have the same story. You know, at one point in their lives, their body moved before they can even think, right? Which, don't get me wrong, I think that's a very nice way of showing, like, yeah, that's a hero, but also one that I really enjoy, which I actually have not seen before, is not like, oh, my body moved before I could think. It's the whole, I moved my body before I even, like, fully processed, or not fully processed, but like, I moved my body to save that person, fully knowing that it could kill me, kind of thing, right? Because I feel like, in one aspect, the whole move my body before I could even think is like that instinct, right? It shows that that person has an instinctual thing of being a hero. That conscious one, the whole, I moved my body knowing that saving this person could kill me, is more of a, having the mind stone, not necessarily not having the instinct of a hero, but having the mindset of a hero. The whole, I would risk my life to save this person kind of hero mentality, right? Both people have the same mentality, but I think it's like the same coin, just flipped differently, right? In one of them, they unconsciously have that urge to do it and always do it, and in the other, it's a conscious urge that they act upon, kind of thing, you know? Same coin, different sides. I've never seen the one I just said, though, the consciously doing it, knowing you're gonna get shot kind of thing. The one I see a lot is the whole, my body moved before I could even think kind of thing. But yeah, I really wish to see, you know, Hizashi becoming a hero and whatever. And I know that, as I said, not statistically speaking, but writing speaking, a kiss here wouldn't have been, you know, it would be really weird. It would be a really weird placing. Shipper Me, though. Shipper Me wanted them to start smooshing. Face smash. Just mwah, mwah, mwah. See, we have Writer Me, who is like, yeah, no, a kiss in this situation probably wouldn't have been the best. Writing-wise, pasting-wise. Shipper Me, though, is like, nah, have them smoochy smooch. Shipper Me is like, I want to see them lips touching, just mwah, 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 mwah. Shipper Me and Writer Me often have arguments. We have large arguments. At least on the other one, with, like, the finger thing, where, like, I don't remember, was it Aizawa doing the finger thing, or was it, no, it's Hasashi doing the finger thing to his cheek, right? At least in that moment, Writer Me and Shipper Me were both like, yeah, okay, a kiss. Writer Me is like, a kiss does belong in this scene. It would make sense, you know, pacing-wise, story-wise. As for Shipper Me, is like, I do not care. Smoochy, smooch, smooch. In this one, Shipper Me and Writer Me are not in agreement right now. But I really enjoyed this chapter. I really enjoyed the way that the author did the not the dialogue, but the narration and the whole, that last line, you know, was he really a villain, right? Ugh, that hit, I could just go on for hours. But yeah. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my socials are down in the description. And my Discord server is also down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.